Welcome to Toni Unleashed, the podcast where we unleash the truth about all things pets.
Our research and anecdotal evidence matched with pet expert interviews will help you help your pet thrive.
We are here to answer questions, divulge information, and spread awareness about what's really going on in the world of pets.
I am your co-host, Emily Taylor, pet nutrition enthusiast.
And I'm Toni Shalasky, owner of Healthy Pet Products with 3 locations in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, and recently expanded to Port Charlotte, Florida. Welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Toni Unleashed, the podcast. We are welcoming our friends from First Mate to talk to us about their food options, kibble and canned. They have a really unique history behind the development of the company that really sets them apart from the other companies out there. Furthermore, we are going to talk about their pea and legume-free options and why that is important after the whole DCM debate and debacle, which we will touch on briefly. It has always been a priority for this podcast to be a fully inclusive space. We do not want to alienate anyone because of the way they feed or supplement their animals. This is why it is so important for us to, yes, encourage and advocate for fresh foods in your animals' diets, but to also talk about other quality options as well. Today, we are focused on a kibble that I sell and recommend. It is so important to include companies like First Mate, who are providing a great kibble, canned, and treat option.
Hey guys, I'm so excited to have you both on the show. So we have 2 people here from First Mate. So we're going to let them introduce themselves so you can, hear their voice, know who's talking. So we have Lizzie and we have Bob. So go ahead, guys. Tell us who you are, your passion for animals, how long you've been in the pet industry, what you do with First Mate. We want to hear it all.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having us. I'm Lizzie. I'm the Pacific Northwest First Mate rep. So I'm based out of Seattle, Washington, and I service is the right word, service the states of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska. And I've been in the pet industry for almost 10 years now. The first 5 started at a local mom and pop pet retailer in Washington that has now expanded into Oregon called Mud Bay. And I was the manager.
I didn't know that.
Former Muddy in the house.
Yes.
Yeah, so I worked there for many years. And I was inspired to work there because I got a puppy at a very young age. I say young, but I was 21 when I got him.
That's very young.
I felt like a teen dog mom. And he kind of inspired me to think like, oh, I'm so invested in his health. I could be working in the pet industry. Like, why am I not doing that? So applied to work at Mud Bay. And it was Mud Bay that actually got us onto First Mate and then introduced us to the world of healthy pet back in 2013. 5 years at Mud Bay and 5 years just about now at First Mate. And I've been loving it so much. So it's been awesome.
Wow, that's great. All right, yeah. Bob, you're up.
I don't know if I can follow that, but I'm Bob. I'm the local rep, so I live in Northwest Ohio and cover this part of Pennsylvania, along with the states of Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, and West Virginia. I have been in the pet industry for cover your mouth 25 years. Uh-huh. A lot of it spent in stores as well, and then with a big box company in their animal care and education department. And that's really where I started getting into nutrition, care of animals. All of my animals are rescued. I have an 11-year-old mix that I drove back from San Antonio in an ice storm and a blizzard.
Oh, wow.
We have so just celebrated her sixth birthday, a Jack Russell mix, who is our alarm in the house. She lets us know what's going on around the neighborhood. Yep. And then in the last few months, we've taken on a 15-year-old Aussie Shepherd mix who we found wandering. So he came into our lives in a great way. He is now the old man of the house, and I am no longer the old man of the house. So that makes me happy. Awesome. But he is the happiest dog and just a fantastic dog to have around.
I love those stories.
So I do think it's important to mention here why we have both Bob and Lizzie on the show. Because Bob, we see you the most often because you are on our side of the country. But funny story. So when Toni and I first started the podcast, we follow a lot of like-minded people on the Instagram. And someone reposted Lizzie's post that was her top 5 favorite pet podcasts. And I messaged her. I was like, this is so unlike me because I must have had a glass of wine or something. I was like, hey, what about us? I was like, do you mind listening and telling me what you think? Because
it wasn't a glass of wine. I taught her well.
Yeah. And I was like, what do you think? I'd love your feedback because we were new to it. And we had carried First Mate for a while. And then it wasn't doing super well. So we phased out and then we brought it back because you were like, I love your podcast. And I really think that First Mate aligns with everything you say, everything you believe, and what your store stands for. So here we are today, full circle moment.
It's really exciting. I know. I was like, full transparency, Emily. I work for First Mate. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't because all I saw was your dog, really.
So cute.
And I'm obsessed with that sticker that you had of
what sticker?
She had a American traditional tattoo, feeling vibe sticker with First Mate on it and her little dog wearing a Captain Sailor hat. Yeah.
Oh, I did see that.
Yes.
That's so cute.
So we brought you guys in because Toni was pretty desperate for a legume-free kibble.
Yeah. I'm sick of reading every ingredient panel and all you see is peas and legumes.
Right.
And it is always on the allergy tests.
Yeah.
Even the ones that are valid, which are Nutriscan and 5-strand, which are more saliva and hair and more conclusive than blood tests that the vets do. So it was so frustrating the past couple of years. And I had always heard of First Mate. I mean, I know you had all been around for a long time, and big on the West Coast, but not big on the East Coast. So that's kind of what stemmed the whole relationship. So tell us, what is a little bit of the history of the company and what makes it different than other kibble? What makes you all different than other kibble companies?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the way that I kind of like to start by talking about it is the fact that I was a customer first. So when I talk about First Mate, I'm kind of just explaining to people what sold me in the first place many years ago, which I definitely feel like resonates differently to the customers that we work firsthand with. So our president and founder, his name is Michael Florian, and he has been an avid fisherman pretty much his entire life. So you're going to learn just a little bit about where the First Mate name comes from, very nautical, so fishing. He was a deckhand on a vessel called the Taplow. And he later went on to be the captain of that vessel and join a fishing co-op that was commercial fishing all around British Columbia, until he realized that just wasn't sustainable. Overfishing still today is a huge problem for the fishing community and the wildlife and all of the above. So he decided to pivot just a little bit and leave the commercial fishing co-op to go on and create his own commercial fish feed company that supports sustainable salmon farms in British Columbia. Wow. I also should comment on the fish in our First Mate diets are wild caught fish. Wow. So yes, we have this history with sustainable fish farms, but in our pet food side of things, we use wild caught fish. So started this fish feed company partnering with these commercial salmon farmers in BC. And back in the day, we had dock dogs that were guarding the salmon from predators like birds flying in, anyone else. Yeah, it's a pretty cute story. And they discovered that the dock dogs were actually sneaking in and snacking on our fish feed. And their owners were wondering why their skin and coat was getting really nice and shiny and their energy level was super high. And so they caught them in the act And then they went to Mike, our founder, and said, hey, Mike, so we learned that the dogs are snacking on your fish feed. Do you know anything about pet food? Could you make something for them? Because we love what's going on here. And so Mike had done some research, and he discovered that the machinery we make our fish feed in is an extruder, which means it can also make dry dog and cat food. So that's kind of the history of how First Mate got started.
That is so
How long
different.
ago was that?
So that was in the 80s. So we've been making pet food for 34 years this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so different than usually any other story from a manufacturer, because usually it's about, oh, my dog was sick and I had to formulate something to make my dog feel better. That is so different.
Yes, I love the story. I think that is a huge part of who we are as a company and really resonates with us today.
So it's still a Canadian-based company then?
Yep, still a Canadian-based company.
Okay.
We are all family-owned and operated independently. No private investment in the First Mate family. We also don't co-pack for anyone else in our human-grade cannery and our kibble facility.
Oh, is the cannery in Canada as well?
It is. Yep, it's also in British Columbia.
And you own the cannery?
We do.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, I know. Very fancy.
And I don't know, this wasn't on the questions, but this is just what I'm thinking right now. Are the standards different in Canada? Like the pet food standards, like quality control standards, all that different than in America?
Yes, we do have much higher standards for sourcing our ingredients and the regulations that go into our facilities. But also, I know you're very familiar with this, but ramp it up another level. And we're also European Union certified in our facility.
Wow.
Yeah.
okay.
I did not know any of that. That's really cool. So then let's talk about, so you guys were you guys only fish-based food for a long time? When did you start introducing other proteins?
Yep. That's a really great question. Most of this dates before my time. But when I started, there were 3 main proteins in the First Mate family. It was chicken, fish, and lamb. And so we got started with fish because our Pacific Ocean fish formula, which we also call our Pacific Ocean fish original, is based off of the fish feed that the salmon were eating and those dogs were snacking on, which is a unique blend of anchovy, herring, and sardine.
Whoa.
Which I feel like you don't see
Yeah.
just those 3 in a lot of dry food options.
Right.
So yeah, really unique, almost considered novel protein.
I was going to ask that next. Yeah.
Yeah. Novel protein. And we can also use the entire fish in these diets. We're not picking these proteins apart, which is also really special. And I feel like you don't see very often out there.
So we're using entire fish, head, eyes, everything.
Of those anchovy, herring, and sardine.
Love it.
Yep.
Yeah, in a lot of cases with the bigger fish, they may be stripped for other things before the rest of the fish is put in. So ours is a much higher meat to bone ratio.
Yes.
Wow.
Love it.
So then when we're talking about the pea-free, legume-free kibble, and you guys were before talking about being ahead of the game, did you come out with that food before the whole DCM issue? And how long before and why?
We did. Yeah. So we came out with it. Oh gosh, Bob, what was the year? I was still at Mud Bay.
Well, the original LID would have been 1995.
Oh, right. Yes, our original line. I was thinking the grain-friendly line.
And the grain-friendly has been around for 14 years, I believe.
Wow.
Boy,
So
you
guys
fact check me on that.
You guys have truly been ahead of the game with like the variety of the LID, grain-free, grain-inclusive, canned, fish-heavy.
Yes.
Yes.
Is it safe to say you were the
Am I
Evo
being-
of the West?
Say that one more time,
Is
Toni.
it safe to say you were the Evo of the West? Neither one of you have been in the pet food industry long enough.
My brain immediately went to that packaging
Yeah.
right away. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we even trademarked the term grain-friendly because at the time we felt like grains were getting a really bad rap. I can't remember. So DCM, the first talk of DCM came out in, when? Was it 2016?
Ugh, really?
That very first, I remember it like it was yesterday on the retail side of
I
things.
don't
was
feel
thinking,
like it was that long ago.
I don't feel like it was that long ago.
That's
Was it
7 years ago. I feel like it was.
Was it pre-COVID? In my brain, it was during COVID because I forget
Yeah.
about COVID.
I thought.
there were so many types in the media. There was like, it initially hit,
yeah.
initially was talked about, kind of simmered down, and then the media took a hold of it and it went a whole nother direction. And that was probably in like 2020, 2021 is when it resurfaced a little bit. But anywho, grain friendly line was slightly before that first like 2016 hit of the whole topic.
Right.
And we came out with it because we really felt like grains got a bad rap. And the way that we kind of feel about carbohydrates is it's all about what kind of carbohydrates you're using and how much you're using. Because dogs and cats are carnivores. We need to be pushing meat. Meat needs to be the leading ingredient always. And in kibble, you got to have a carbohydrate. Mm-hmm. So we're focused on the highly digestible kind. So in our grain-free line, we use potato, North Dakota and Burbank potatoes. And then in our grain-friendly line, we use oatmeal and rice. So we're trying to keep it really simple, digestible, easy on the tummy, all the above.
Wow.
So to touch on DCM and us throwing this acronym around, degenerative cardiomyopathy, which in layman's terms can be considered congestive heart failure in dogs. And what was happening is we had the world, I guess we could say, has seen an increase in this in our dogs. And it was trying to be proven that the cause was grain-free foods, grain-free kibble. And go ahead.
No, yeah, I was going to say that, and then it kind of got blamed on peas and legumes.
And then it switched from just being grain-free to peas and legumes, because when we realized that dogs have an allergy to grain, a majority of dogs have an allergy to grains, the grain-free movement started, and the first binder that was used was basically potatoes. And then potatoes was acceptable for a very long time. And then all of a sudden, everybody was worried about the starch load and the sugar load of potatoes. And then we went to peas and legumes, and plus the allergy of potatoes. So it's just one of those things that it's always something. So it got so far that the FDA did a 2-year-long study, and feel free to chime in, but a 2-year-long study. And after the 2 years, they pulled the study and said there's no conclusive evidence that grain-free kibble is causing DCM. So that all being said,
we still have a lot of people scared, though. I mean, I think the fear lingered around the longest out of all of it. And it got to the point where it was hard people didn't know who to believe, what to believe.
Well,
so, and we also maybe don't want to believe a lot of things.
It didn't stay around as long as the pet food recalls of 2007. That stayed around a long time.
Oh.
That's way before you.
Yeah.
And there's melamine, but that's a whole other story. So, but that's still, we talked to all of our customers about DCM endlessly and what to do and what not to do. But still, it lingered for a long time. And what also lingered was the fact that the allergy tests, dogs were coming. I swear, almost every allergy test I look at, peas and legumes are on there. And they're in every kibble. Even if it's a grain inclusive kibble, I feel like.
I noticed that recently too, just flipping over bags in my own free time like I normally do because I'm a nerd.
So I guess what you'll find that I guess differentiates us in the First Mate line, both the limited ingredient and the grain-free, is that you won't find peas and legumes in them, but you will also find them high meat inclusive. Mm-hmm. So they are a high animal protein. So not to get too in the weeds on DCM, but cats cannot synthesize taurine, which is an essential amino acid. Dogs can through methionine and cysteine, which are other amino acids which come from meat. So all of those studies, the can's kind of been kicked down the road of, boy, it's BEG diets, so boutique
I hate that.
manufacturers, exotic protein, grain free, and then they went, well, it's not the boutique because we've got some that aren't boutique manufacturers that are making these foods too. So it's exotic proteins, and then the first or the highest level of protein, highest number of proteins was chicken. And they went, well, maybe it's not exotic protein. So they continue to kick this down the road. But what we look at is high meat inclusion, because that's what we think is most important. So we've got two separate lines, our limited ingredient diet, grain free, that uses, as Lizzie said, Burbank and North Dakota potatoes, which is the line that you've brought into Healthy Pet Products. Really high meat inclusion diet, single animal protein, single carbohydrate source. And then our grain inclusive, our grain friendly as well, will use whole brown rice and whole oats in that diet. Both of them without any peas and legumes, both of them without flaxseed as well. And I know that's become a little bit of a hot button topic lately too.
And since you're talking specifics, you want to go into your cans?
Lizzie, you want to take that?
I mean, owning our own cannery, already so special. So our cans, they are all human grade ingredients made in our own facilities without co-packing. And all of our cans are just about, and I say just about because they vary by like 1% or 2% depending on the formula, but just about 95% meat and only 5% carbohydrate.
So let's talk about, why don't you talk about why that's important for dogs with allergies, why that's important with dogs with, IBS, digestive issues.
Cats too.
Talk about cats. And then also talk about, sorry, I'm throwing a lot at you. Why it's okay, or maybe if you would recommend doing a little canned, little kibble, a little both.
Absolutely.
Because I think sometimes people get scared of combining canned with kibble, or maybe doing kibble one day, canned the next day.
Absolutely. And backtracking just a little bit on that too. So Bob had already mentioned like our limited ingredient line. And I know we throw around that term quite often.
Thank you. I was going to say that too, but then he's touched on it and I was like, do we not go back on that? So I'm glad you did.
Yes, no problem. We call the grain-free line limited ingredient because out of all of First Mate, that's our most limited. Add a single protein, single carbohydrate, and hardly anything else after that. So true limited ingredient. But honestly, if you look at all of our First Mate and Cassix diets as a whole, they are all extremely simple. Bob already touched on this, but almost all of them, just minus a few formulas, are single protein. That's going to be huge with dogs and cats that have allergies or sensitivities of any kind. And most of them are pretty minimal in carbohydrates as well. Like we're just using the oatmeal and the rice in our grain inclusive line. So really keeping it simple through and through. The First Mate slogan is literally the best nutrition is simple. And I feel like we apply that to literally everything we do. And I kind of love it. Mm-hmm. Just simple, digestible foods, high quality, digestible foods. And like we talked about, meat should always be the leading ingredient. Our dogs and cats are carnivores. Cats are the obligate carnivore realm. So we want to make sure that meat content is extra high. But yes, so our cans, already mentioned the couple like key selling points, made in our own facilities, 95% meat, only 5% carbohydrate, but also no artificial thickeners. There are no gums in these, no agar-agar, anything like that. And it wasn't, I think we learned recently, guar gum being tied to like inflammation in the bowel. So even more simple than the average limited ingredient canned diets. Our cans are also completely interchangeable and fully balanced to meet the needs of both dogs and cats. 100% the same formulas across the board. We use 12-ounce cans in the dog side of things, but we also have 12-ounce, 5.5 ounce, and 3.2 ounce cans in the cat side. I find that most helpful for tiny dog customers that look for a 12-ounce can and they're like, I have one teacup chihuahua and he cannot eat that can. It goes bad.
I have a 13-pound dog and a 13-pound cat, and it is so much easier for me to feed them the same thing because I have a dog with really bad allergies. So I'm like, if the dog and the cat, the one dog and the one cat can eat whatever, the same thing, that's awesome. I do that all of the time. I'm always looking for cans or raw food or anything that for dogs and cats.
For sure. And hopefully you don't run into this problem too often with First Mate, but at the slight chance that you were ever out of a certain formula in one section, but you had it in another, and you have a customer that comes in and says, my pet will only eat this can, like I can't buy anything else. You have a secondary option that's identical, just with a different label. So that's really nice. And incorporating canned diets is a great way to get moisture into a pet's diet. I actually feed Soto, my long-haired dachshund, which, Toni, we didn't talk about our dogs having very similar names.
Your dog's name is Soto?
Soto, Sodo, which is south of downtown or south of the Kingdom if you're from Seattle originally and go back that far.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is this the dog that you got when you were 21?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. My teen mom dog.
Yes. Love it.
Yep. So he's been my muse for just about everything. And I feed him rotationally, which also kind of answers the question that you also asked me, but I'll try to stay as focused as I can. It's hard when talking about pet food. I feel like we're all over the place. But at First Mate, we very much encourage rotational feeding. It's a more complete approach to nutrient intake. It helps create a lot of excitement during mealtime. It also reduces the risk of food allergies, sensitivities, and pickiness down the road. So like
you were talking about before, if there's if something's out, like there have been issues in the pet food world where sourcing lamb is hard, but if you are keeping up with rotational eating, that's not a problem for you.
Right.
That's not going to affect you at all.
Exactly.
That was awful during COVID. Awful.
Oh, it's terrible.
It was terrible.
We ran into so many folks really struggling to find something that would work well with their pets. And it was challenging. So I literally go through for what's appropriate for him. He is a 12-year-old standard dachshund, but I usually go through the protein rotation. I literally buy a different 5-pound bag every time I'm purchasing food, as well as a couple different cases of our cans. And I do different proteins, different lines, and I actually feed our canned and our kibble together for one meal. And it makes it really easy. Like he's accustomed to that type of rotation, but this also plays a factor in how simple we are as a brand across the board. We make it really easy for those customers to kind of transition with ease and, rotate between different things with ease without that tummy upset, right?
Do you find that dogs do well? Because we know that customers can be so nervous about transitioning their dogs from different foods to different brands. And, we have learned, and we have done this with our dogs, we hop around brand, protein. Our dogs are built for that now. But do you personally find that dogs, because your food is so simple, that dogs do transition really well off maybe another brand for whatever reason?
Yep.
Because
normally,
of stomach sensitivity,
Yeah, normally I would say yes, 100%. But every dog is so different. Just as a cautionary tale, I always recommend a slow transition just to be safe. But using my own personal experience with Soto and the different customers I've helped over the years, most customers can transition with ease. But if they're worried, slow transition for sure.
And I think, most dogs, I transition just fine, but it's 10% of the dogs that give 90% of the dogs a bad name because they're the ones that don't transition well.
Right.
And you don't want to have one of those, but I'm the same way. My 3, we go rotation, and they do just fine.
Yep. One thing I'll always recommend as well is if you are nervous, again, start slow, but start within like each line first. Like if you're in the grain-free First Mate line, go through that rotation first and see how it goes. Or the grain-friendly line. Or when you're noticing that they're tolerating that switch well, then start to bounce back and forth just a little bit. Another thing that makes our kibble a great option and a really great selling point, to be honest, is we're very dense in calories. We average around 500 kcals a cup.
Wow.
Some formula, some a little more, some a little less, but pair feeding less, which is going to be easier for a dog and cat's body to break down and digest, with a limited ingredient panel like ours. And I truthfully feel like you have a gold star for digestibility. So that feeding less aspect while still maintaining the appropriate amount of calories also plays a huge role in that rotational ease, if you will.
Wow.
Well, that means it's more cost effective too, for sure, because we're feeding less. Yeah.
We talk about less and all the great benefits that come with it often.
Do you guys have a price breakdown of like how much it costs for like a per day for like a 50-pound dog?
Bob, do you have that on hand? I don't personally.
But you guys have it within the company?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We can get that in for sure.
Yeah.
I think that would be
It's helpful.
really, I think I feel like for numbers people who maybe get intimidated, that's really helpful.
So
for sure.
how about touch on any other products? I know you have treats, and then let's talk about where you can find First Mate, and what your commitment is to the independent pet retailer.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So, and I wanted to circle back to the cans too, because we talked about not having a thickener in them.
Yeah.
But what that creates is what we call a whipped pate or a loose pate. It stirs like a Greek yogurt.
I like to say applesauce.
Applesauce, yes. Great for licky mats.
Ooh, yeah.
Great for my Jack Russell mix, who will not eat her kibble unless it is coated. So it is very easy to coat. Great, you can put it in the fridge, bring it back out. It does not get that crust on it. It still stirs really easily. It's just a really simple, nice
Is there
way
a starch at all in the cans? Potato or... Yes.
Yes. So we run our cans the same way we run our food. So our limited ingredient diet cans will have potato as the starch, the carb in it. That's kind of what we use as the thickener.
Yes.
The grain inclusive will have rice, and then our Cassix line will have a pea.
Well, that's a
in
way
it.
better thickener than
Gargum. Gargum. Can I just say real quick, this is so silly, but when you guys are talking about your canned food, I don't know why, but the first thing that came to my mind is if that there was a zombie apocalypse and everyone's raiding the grocery stores, I would go for First Mate canned food.
You'd be set. You'd be eating well. I always encourage people to shake our cans too. I don't know if it's probably not going to translate on Zoom, but you can hear how loose it is.
Yeah.
I like to harp on the texture quite a bit because when you think pate, you kind of think dense and loafy. And that's like the total opposite of our cans. So many stores that I visit, they do, I love that this happens, but the labeling of textures. So we're lumped in with all the pates, which I totally get. However, we are unlike any texture that we're sharing that shelf with. So I always like to kind of stress that where it's appropriate.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Bob, continue. Sorry, we went off on a tangent. We tend to do that. It's very easy to do.
I started that tangent. Apologies.
All right, so go back.
So where you can find us and how we support the independent pet side?
Yes.
We are found in independent pet stores. So you will not find us in the big box stores. You will not find us in the Tractor Supplies of the world, that kind of thing. We prefer to support brick and mortar independent pet stores. We are a founder of Indie Pet.
Wow.
I know,
Thank
Toni,
you.
that I just had another account send me a request for neighborhood pet store day.
Yes.
In September.
Yes.
I saw your picture on the ad. So congratulations with that. But we absolutely support that and we'll be taking part wherever we're able to support neighborhood pet store day as well. But we are a big supporter of the independent pet brand.
Our Healthy Pet Products Neighborhood Pet Store Day is my 15-year anniversary in business this coming
congratulations.
fall. So, and the reason why my picture is on that advertisement is because I'm a board member of Indie Pet. So
Awesome.
I am trying to actively help other independent pet stores throughout the country. I'm very honored to be on the board and doing what I can for others. So
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Congratulations. And that's why I love to work with this company. First Mate also supports that small, independent, family-owned kind of business because that's exactly what we are.
We are truly small. I believe we're at less than 120 people total in our company.
And that's
All the
including all the manufacturing facilities, the cannery,
Yes.
the packaging line, everything.
Yes.
Wow.
We are a small, tight-knit group, which is really nice because we have such a good support team behind us sales reps that are out in the field working directly with all of you. We are transparent to a fault. If there's ever a question that you have for Bob and he doesn't know it off the top of his head, we have a whole team behind us that's going to get a very detailed answer back to you shortly. And that actually ties into one thing before we wrapped up. I wanted to make sure we kind of covered all the big selling points of who we are as a company and what we're all about. We're also formulated by a veterinarian. I feel like that's really important for folks to hear.
Very, very, very important. Yeah.
Yes.
People love
Got
that.
a director of research that has all the good abbreviations behind her name. Smartest woman I've ever met in my life. Very solid support system. And I feel like that's really important to throw in there. So small family owned, veterinarian on staff and veterinarian formulated, all the good stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe we can have her on someday as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And then do you guys want to talk about throughout treats? I mean, I know we pretty much covered a lot of your lines of food and cans, and we covered cat. Do you guys want to talk about treats at all?
I talked too much, so I'm going to let Bob cover this now.
I love our treats. We treat our treats like we treat our food. I call them kibble adjacent. So they are a high protein, low carb treat that is meat first. The original one is a little 5-calorie biscuit. So that's our original that comes in a bagged or a bulk. But we created, to your point, Emily, a 1-calorie mini trainer version of it. Really good little crunchy treat that's easy to carry around, doesn't get all clumpy in your pocket if you're like the soft treats do, but easy. One of my dogs loves treats, go figure. I don't mind giving her 5 treats because that's only 5 calories. So it's a great little 7-ingredient meat first option. And it is also now a cat treat.
Yeah, wow.
So those have come out recently. Same formula, different packaging to reach out to the cat customer as well. A little smaller package because we know that most cats don't eat treats as often as dogs. That may be false information because my son's cat likes treats almost as much as any of my dogs do.
Wow.
But yeah, it's what I like to call kibble adjacent.
Wow.
Is there a treat that matches the limited ingredient line?
Ooh, great question.
Yes.
Yes. So the same ingredients. They come in a chicken, duck, fish, and lamb with the same proteins that we would use in our foods.
Okay.
I feel like it's tough to find a limited ingredient meat-based biscuit out there as well.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of in a different category of treat.
Well, you just named like 5 categories.
Yeah. Meat-based, limited ingredient.
Yeah. Treat, biscuit.
Yep. We heard for many years, any like one-off independent mom and pop store that maybe had a shop cat, I'd go into these stores and in their bulk section, our biscuits would be the only one that had like a cover to it. And I'd ask them, I'd say, why is just the fish and potato biscuits covered? And they're like, the shop cat goes to town on it. They're like, we have to cover it. And I heard that for so many years because it is a great cat biscuit, that the fact now that we do have a labeled, packaged cat customer biscuit, I feel like is huge for us. Finally checking that box for those shop cats so they don't have to steal the dog bulk biscuits anymore.
That's funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you guys did bulk treats.
Yeah. Come in a 10-pound box.
I have heard that a time or two from Bob.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
The last thing before we go, your social media, your website and everything.
Yep.
I know it's pretty simple as a Google search, but what I do want to know is, can our customers or anyone who's listening to this or want to reach out to you, is it easy to get a hold of someone on First Mate? Can they message you guys on social media? Can they respond to an email? Will they get a response from someone, not a robot? Let's talk more about, I think that's more important because I think it's so easy. I mean, it is easy to type in First Mate on Google and get your website and First Mate on Instagram and First Mate on Facebook. But I think what people want to know is, how accessible are you guys?
We are very accessible, and on all the vessels, I call them vessels, that you just mentioned, email, Facebook, Instagram. We are First Mate Pet Foods on Facebook, and then we are First Mate Kasiks Pet Foods on Instagram.
K-A-S-I-K-S. K-A-S-I-K-S.
Yes, I was like, I have to write it down. Thank you.
Yep.
And then customer service at firstmate.com. We'll get you Rika in our office. And because we are a small, tight-knit group, we know exactly who that is. And she will get back to you promptly.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. All those links, show notes, and will be in our show notes.
Yep.
And Bob and Lizzie, we can't thank you enough for being on the show.
Yes.
And,
thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
And thank the owner for providing a fantastic food. And we will hopefully talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you, guys.
We want to give a big shout out to our sound engineer, Brad, from Beacon Sound Systems, LLC. This is the highest quality sound editing, and he knows exactly what to edit. So it's his fault the F-bombs are still in there. You can reach Brad for all your sound editing needs through
Instagram and Facebook. You'll follow at Beacon Sound Systems. Website, www.4beaconsound.com. Phone number, 724-471-2410.
Beacon Sound is a locally owned company in our neck of the woods here in Pittsburgh, PA. So if you're in need of large LED screens, stages, lighting, or sound systems for any occasion, big or small, this is the company for you.
Sounds like a party in one.
And boy, do we need one.